Hello, and welcome. In today's video, we're going to cover everything you need to know before playing your very first game of chess. Whether you've never touched a chessboard before or you're just getting started, by the end of this video you'll have all the fundamentals you need to begin your chess journey with confidence. Before we learn how the pieces move, let's first get familiar with the chessboard. The chessboard has 64 squares, arranged in an 8 by 8 grid, with light and dark squares alternating across the board. Although chess has evolved over more than 1,000 years since its origins in ancient India, the 64-square board has remained the standard for centuries. One important detail is how to set up the board correctly. The square in the bottom right corner of each player should always be a light-colored square. An easy way to remember this is, light on the right. Now that you know the board, let's move on to key terms chess players use when talking about the board. Let's talk about ranks. Ranks are the horizontal rows on the chessboard. There are 8 ranks in total, numbered 1 through 8. Rank 1 and 2 is where white pieces start, while rank 7 and 8 is where black pieces start. Ranks help us describe where pieces are on the board and make it much easier to read and understand chess positions. Now that you know what ranks are, let's look at files. Files are the vertical columns on the chessboard. There are 8 files, labeled with the letters A to H, from left to right. Just like ranks, files help us identify the location of every square on the board and make it easier to read chess positions and notation. Now that you know ranks and files, let's see how they work together to name a few squares on the chessboard. Each square is named by combining its file first, followed by its rank. Here are a few examples. A1 is on the A file and the rank 1. E4 is on the E file and the rank 4. H8 is on the H file and the rank 8. Every square on the chessboard has a unique name, making it easy to record moves, study games, and communicate positions with other players. One last thing to know is diagonals. These are lines of squares that run diagonally across the board, where every square is the same color. Like ranks and files, diagonals are an important part of understanding how chess is played. Now let's set up the chessboard. The pieces are arranged the same way at the start of every game. The second rank is filled with white pawns, while the 7th rank is filled with black pawns. The remaining pieces are placed on the first rank for white and the 8th rank for black. Don't worry about memorizing every piece just yet, we'll go through each one, where it starts, and how it moves, but first let's talk about the basic rules of the game. In every game of chess, white always makes the first move, and players take turns moving one piece at a time. The main objective is to checkmate your opponent's king, which means trapping it so it has no legal escape. Don't worry if you're not sure what checkmate means yet, we'll cover checkmate, and other important rules later in the video. Let's start with the most important piece on the chessboard, the king. The king's purpose is simple: stay alive. Your main objective in every game is to protect your own king while trying to checkmate your opponent's king. Unlike the other pieces, the king doesn't have a point value because it cannot be traded or captured. If your king is checkmated, the game is over, no matter how many pieces you have left on the board. Now, let's see how the king moves. The king moves one square at a time in any direction. It can move forward, backward, left, right, or diagonally, as long as it's only moving one square. To capture an opponent's piece, the king moves onto the square occupied by that piece, provided it's only one square away. However, the king cannot capture a piece if that square is protected by another enemy piece, because that would place the king in check. Don't worry if that doesn't make sense yet, we'll cover the rules of check and checkmate later in the video. The king also cannot jump over other pieces. If one of your own pieces is blocking the way, you'll have to wait until it moves before the king can use that square. Even though the king only moves one square at a time, it's the most important piece on the board. Losing the king means losing the game, so every move with the king should be made carefully. There's one more special rule that only applies to the kings. Because a king can never move into check, the two kings can never stand on adjacent squares. In other words, they can never meet or move right next to each other, since each king would be attacking the other. This unique rule leads to an important endgame concept called opposition, where the position of the two kings becomes a key strategic battle. We'll cover opposition in a future video once you've learned the fundamentals. Next, let's look at the pawn, the most numerous piece on the chessboard. Each player starts the game with 8 pawns, making a total of 16 pawns on the board. Although they're the least valuable pieces, each pawn is worth 1 point and plays a vital role throughout the game. Pawns are the backbone of your position. They help control important squares, protect your other pieces, create space, and can even become incredibly powerful as they advance across the board. Next, we'll learn exactly how pawns move, capture, and what makes them one of the most unique pieces in chess. The pawn is the only piece in chess that moves differently from how it captures. A pawn normally moves one square straight forward into an empty square. However, if it hasn't moved yet, it has the option of moving 2 squares forward on its very first move, as long as both squares are clear. To capture an opponent's piece, a pawn moves 1 square diagonally forward to the left or right. Unlike its normal movement, a pawn cannot capture straight ahead, and it cannot move diagonally unless it's capturing an enemy piece. Pawns also cannot move backward or jump over other pieces. If another piece is directly in front of a pawn, it cannot move forward until that square becomes empty. Next, we'll look at an important rule known as pawn promotion, along with another special pawn rule called en passant. One of the most unique abilities of the pawn is promotion. When a pawn successfully reaches the last rank of the board, it cannot remain a pawn. Instead, it must be promoted to another piece. You can choose to promote it to a queen, rook, bishop, or knight, regardless of whether those pieces have already been captured. However, you cannot promote a pawn to another pawn or to a king. In most games, players choose to promote to a queen because it's the most powerful piece on the chessboard. However, there are certain positions where promoting to a rook, bishop, or knight is the best move. This is known as underpromotion, and you'll come across examples of it as you improve. There's one final special pawn rule that every chess player should know. It's called en passant. En passant is a special pawn capture that can only happen immediately after an opponent moves a pawn 2 squares forward from its starting position. If that pawn lands beside your pawn, and it would have passed through a square your pawn attacks, you may capture it as if it had moved only 1 square. This special capture must be made on your very next move, otherwise, the opportunity is lost. Although en passant doesn't happen very often, it's an official rule of chess and one every player should know. Now let's look at the rook, one of the most powerful pieces in chess. Each player starts the game with 2 rooks, making a total of 4 rooks on the board. A rook is worth 5 points, making it more valuable than a knight or bishop, but less valuable than the queen. Rooks are especially powerful because they excel at controlling ranks and files, making them excellent attacking and defending pieces. As the game progresses and the board becomes more open, rooks often become even stronger and can have a huge impact on the outcome of the game. In the next lesson, we'll learn exactly how the rook moves, captures pieces, and explore one of the most important special moves in chess called castling. The rook moves in straight lines along ranks and files. It can move forward, backward, left, or right, and it may travel as many squares as it likes in a single move, as long as the path is clear. The rook captures by moving onto the square occupied by an opponent's piece using the same horizontal or vertical movement. It cannot capture pieces diagonally. Like most chess pieces, the rook cannot jump over other pieces. If a piece, whether it's yours or your opponent's, is blocking its path, the rook must stop. It may capture the first enemy piece in its path, but it cannot move beyond it. Because it can control entire ranks and files, the rook becomes especially powerful when the board opens up later in the game. Next we'll talk about castling. Castling is a special move involving the king and one of the rooks. It's the only move in chess where 2 pieces move at the same time. To castle, the king moves 2 squares toward the rook, and the rook jumps over the king, landing on the square right next to it. Castling is a great way to improve your king's safety while bringing your rook into the game. However, Castling is only allowed if neither the king nor the chosen rook has moved before, there are no pieces between them, the king is not in check, and the king does not move through or land on a square that is under attack. Next, let's look at the bishop, a fast and versatile long-range piece. Each player starts the game with 2 bishops, making a total of 4 bishops on the board. A bishop is worth 3 points, the same value as a knight. One unique feature of bishops is that each bishop stays on the same color squares for the entire game. One begins on a light square and can only move on light squares, while the other begins on a dark square and remains on dark squares. Bishops are excellent at controlling long diagonals and often become very powerful when the board opens up. Next, we'll learn exactly how the bishop moves and captures pieces. The bishop moves diagonally in any direction and can travel as many squares as it likes, as long as its path is clear. It captures by moving onto an opponent's piece using the same diagonal movement. Unlike the rook, a bishop cannot move horizontally or vertically. Because bishops always move diagonally, they stay on the same color squares for the entire game. A bishop that starts on a light square will always remain on light squares, and the same is true for a dark squared bishop. Like most pieces, the bishop cannot jump over other pieces. It may capture the first enemy piece in its path, but it cannot move beyond it. Next we'll look at the queen. Now let's look at the queen, the most powerful piece in chess. Each player starts the game with 1 queen, making a total of 2 queens on the board. The queen is worth 9 points, giving it the highest point value of any piece. Because of its incredible mobility, the queen is an excellent attacking and defending piece. It can quickly influence different parts of the board and is often the key piece in launching powerful attacks or delivering checkmate. Next, we'll learn exactly how the queen moves and captures pieces. The queen combines the movement of both the rook and the bishop, making it the most versatile piece on the chessboard. It can move horizontally, vertically, or diagonally, traveling as many squares as it likes in a single move, as long as its path is clear. The queen captures by moving onto a square occupied by an opponent's piece using the same movement. Because of its flexibility, it can attack pieces from many different directions. Like the rook and bishop, the queen cannot jump over other pieces. It may capture the first enemy piece in its path, but it cannot move beyond it. Its ability to control ranks, files, and diagonals makes the queen one of the most dangerous pieces in the game. Next, we'll look at the knight. The knight is one of the most unique pieces in chess. Each player starts the game with 2 knights, making a total of 4 knights on the board. A knight is worth 3 points, the same value as a bishop. Unlike the other pieces we've covered so far, the knight has a very unusual way of moving, making it excellent at creating unexpected attacks and tactical opportunities. It's especially effective in crowded positions where other pieces have limited mobility. Next, we'll learn exactly how the knight moves, captures pieces, and why it's the only piece that can jump over other pieces. The knight has the most unique movement of any chess piece, but it's actually very easy to remember. A knight always moves in an L shape, 2 squares in one direction, then 1 square at a right angle. You can think of it as moving 2 squares forward, backward, left, or right, and then 1 square to the side. This gives the knight up to 8 possible destination squares, depending on where it is on the board. The knight captures exactly the same way it moves, by landing on a square occupied by an opponent's piece. What makes the knight truly special is that it's the only piece in chess that can jump over other pieces. It doesn't matter if friendly or enemy pieces are in the way, the knight simply leaps over them to reach its destination. However, it cannot land on a square occupied by one of your own pieces. A simple way to remember the knight's movement is to think of it as making the shape of the letter L. Once you recognize that pattern, the knight becomes much easier to use, even though it may seem tricky at first. Next we'll look at what check, checkmate and stalemate means. Finally, what you've been waiting for, let's talk about check. A king is in check when it's being attacked by one or more of your opponent's pieces. When this happens, you must respond to the threat immediately, you can't ignore a check or make a different move. There are only 3 ways to get out of check. 1. capture the attacking piece, if it's safe to do so. 2. Block the attack by placing one of your pieces between the king and the attacking piece. 3. Move the king to a safe square. If none of these options are possible, then it's no longer just a check, it's checkmate, which we'll cover next. Checkmate happens when a king is in check and there is no legal way to escape. The game ends immediately, and the player who delivered the checkmate wins. If you remember, earlier I mentioned that the king can't capture a protected piece as it will end up in check, and as for this case the bishop protects the queen. Not every chess game ends with a winner. Sometimes, the game ends in a draw, which means neither player wins nor lose. For example, when the kings are left alone on the board, no checkmates are possible, so the game ends in a draw. The same case applies when there's a kings and a bishop. Kings and one knight. Or the kings with two knights, since checkmate can't be achieved in any of these positions, the game ends in a draw. Lastly, one of the most common ways a draw happens is through stalemate. A stalemate occurs when a player is not in check, but has no legal moves available. In this case black's queen just stalemated white's king, leaving it with no more squares to move. Since they can't make a move and their king isn't under attack, the game ends in a draw. There are other ways to draw a game as well, such as threefold repetition, the 50-move rule, and also players can just agree on a draw if they feel like doing so. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I hope this video has given you a solid foundation and made chess feel a little less intimidating. One of my biggest goals with this YouTube channel is to give back to the chess community by creating free, high-quality lessons that help players of all ages improve. This is just the beginning of a step-by-step series where we'll build your chess knowledge from the ground up, one lesson at a time. Just like many of you, I learned chess by watching YouTube videos. I know how frustrating it can be to spend hours searching for lessons that are clear, practical, and actually help you improve. That's exactly why I created this channel. My goal is to save you that time by giving you valuable, easy-to-follow chess content that helps you improve with every video. For those who are new here, I've reached 2100 plus online across chess.com and Lichess in multiple time controls, and I also have an over-the-board rating of over 1700. Everything I teach on this channel comes from years of studying, competing, coaching, and continuously improving my own game. If you found this video helpful and you'd like to see more content like this, I'd really appreciate it if you liked the video, subscribed to the channel, and shared it with someone who wants to learn chess. Every like, subscription, and share helps this channel reach more people and allows me to keep creating free, high-quality chess lessons. Finally, if you have any questions, suggestions, or topics you'd like me to cover in future videos, let me know in the comments below. I read every comment I can, and your feedback will help shape this series. Thank you again for watching, and welcome to the beginning of your chess journey. I'll see you in the next lesson. Until then, keep practicing, keep learning, and most importantly, enjoy the game of chess.